Hello everybody, welcome back to Double Dip Draft Season 4 Division 1 Week 2 recap, I believe. If I didn't get any of those numbers wrong, I am your host, Spood, SSBM. Joining me today is my lovely co-host,
Remedy. Hello.
Hello, Remedy, welcome for your debut appearance on the channel. We're going to be doing essentially a revolving door of coaches from either team for these recaps. This week I've got Remedy on. Thank you for joining me so much. We've got some exciting matches to watch from Week 2. Week 1 is kind of a gimme week, right? Like, anything can happen Week 1. Results aren't really indicative of anything, but by Week 2, we're going to start seeing trends towards, like, okay, who's threatening? What are we looking at in terms of the landscape of the group? And I gotta say, I think it is really funny that everyone in Division 1 is either 2-0 or 0-2.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad Week 1 isn't indicative of how it's going to go. Otherwise, I would be in a lot of trouble. I'm still in a little bit of trouble, but not as much.
There's definitely still hope out there for any of us Week 2 strugglers. I know there's a lot of good players right now that are 0-2. Firebolt's currently 0-2. White Loaf is currently 0-2. It's rough out there for the good people. But we hold it down on the commentary booth where it's easy, and we have the benefit of hindsight to look at everything. So without further ado, if you're interested, we can go ahead and start with our first match, which is going to be the Minneapolis Magnezones, coached by Imitable Mass, versus the Neerdowell Nidokings, coached by Kenneth, my very own flesh and blood twin brother Kenneth. So, to start, basically the lead situation, I think, was pretty well played, specifically from Kenneth's end. Like, I think that the running Grass Knot and Taunt and all that is, solid. The only thing I would assume is that maybe Kenneth didn't calc for the sand being up for the Grass Knot, because it didn't do as much damage as I think he would have liked.
Oh god, and I think Imitable Mass, I think he played it as well as he could have. Like, if that Meteor Mash hit, ooh.
Yeah, the Meteor Mash miss really sucks. You'll actually see it later come in handy. I don't believe that Tapu Lele gets any kills exactly, but in the interim, basically you see the terrain goes away by turn 8, and then turn 9, Lele is still alive to bring terrain back, and that terrain actually becomes very useful for Kenneth in the following turns.
I think if it would have killed Lele, like if that Meteor Mash would have hit, and then I think it would have saved the Middle Mass a little bit more. Probably not. I think he still loses, but
yeah, he probably still loses. I mean, this Alakazam though puts in so much work. Questionable Como-O switch in. I'll tell you that.
I'm not sure what the Como was a good idea at all. Like, I don't understand that pick.
Yeah.
Also, this one, the Mew, he's at like 16% health and decides to Cosmic Power. Like,
yeah, I think he just wasn't expecting the Shadow Ball, because the Shadow Ball, I mean, I don't know. Maybe he was hoping that it was like a Specs Alakazam or something. It is Life Orb, believe it or not. I know it doesn't show the damage residually, but one of the perks of Alakazam's ability Magic Guard, which you'll see it doesn't take damage from hazards or sand or Life Orb, but still reaps the benefits of the Life Orb power increase. Alakazam's broken. Magic Guard is such a good ability. Oh my god.
The crit hit from Ice Beam.
Yeah, I don't think it would have mattered at this point, because at 30, I mean, Alakazam's pretty frail, but yeah. The RNG was strange this game, we'll say. Meteor Mash miss. Actually, I did say that correctly. Meteor Mash miss from Mass could have been, I don't know, it could have stopped Alakazam from running through, but
here's where we get to the most interesting part of Kenneth's game, where he's going up against this Rest Sleep Talk Lapras, and whenever it wakes up again, he decides to try to use Hypnosis with his Ninetales on the Rest Sleep Talk Lapras.
I feel like both players came into the game pretty sharp, and then by the end, they were kind of just like slapping wet noodles. I mean, I seriously, the Hypnosis was just an I am not paying attention to what is happening on my screen play. And
this definitely feels like Kenneth going, okay, I get it. We know what's going to happen. Let's just get it over with.
Sure. I guess I can see like the fringe benefit of like, if you're resting, then you have 2 turns down. Also, this serve is...
Oh, God.
Yeah, that crit matters so much from Mass's end. Because otherwise, it just kind of sets up and starts like spamming. But yeah, and some lucky sleep talk RNG coming out using Surf instead of Ice Beam. To be honest, I'm not even really sure what mass was running Ice Beam to hit on this team. I guess Gastrodon takes neutral, but
I don't know what you could probably swap it out with something else like Scald and probably get better returns on it against this team.
Yeah, actually, now that you mention it, Scald probably would have been better than Surf, because if you were going to go for a Sleep Talk Rest like end game, yeah, and then the flinch, crazy game. This game was.
I think if that flinch wouldn't have hit and like he would have been able to get another like Rest Talk Surf up, I think he stands a chance.
Yeah, I think versus the Gastrodon, it's kind of hard for Chemeth to win. I mean, really, you see, he goes into this end game situation at a, I think it was a 4-1 like advantage, and by the end, I mean, he's almost lost like his Sand Slash. And I don't know what the Gastrodon was running necessarily, because I don't think we saw it really come out. It was running Toxic Protect, but as we know, if you rest, then you are no longer toxic. So
yeah. So I mean, I'm like, it started off really strong for both players, but yeah, they fell off, and I think Chemeth just started playing sloppy there at the end, and he could have lost. Like, this was losable for him.
Oh yeah, losable is the word of the day for this match. I actually kind of despise the end game play here. As much as I love Chemeth, and certainly as much as I love Mass, and Mass has been really grinding too. I want to give like sort of some kudos to him there, because I know that between his week 2 and week 3, especially where we're at right now, he's put in a lot of elbow grease to try and shore up his weaknesses. And I know that, I mean, even right now in the Discord, he's talking about playing random battles, you know, to try and learn the meta a little better, or like learn what Pokemon do. So. Yeah, I don't want to disparage either of these fine gentlemen, but questionable endgame play at best.
Yeah, we just say they got sloppy.
Got a little sloppy. Random other thing I wanted to touch on, it should be happening coming up semi-soon in the replay, but I'll put it out when we get there. Actually, I'll just jump there right now, because it's... Or, hold on. Whoop, I skipped it. Or did I? Wait, where was the Meteor Mash? Oh, I think it was, yeah, over here. Or, yeah, wait. What the hell am I looking at? Okay, right there. So,
there.
You'll notice, so, in this instance, Mass has lost, like, a lot of Pokemon. I think all 3 of his Pokemon so far have been lost to this Alakazam. Metagross comes in, attempting to pop the Alakazam with a priority Bullet Punch, but one of the things that I wanted to explain while we have the opportunity to talk about it, because it's not a very intuitive part of Pokemon's game design, is the terrains kind of all do arbitrary secondary effects, and one of them is that Bullet Punch and similar priority moves just don't work in Psychic terrain.
Nope. You can't fall asleep in electric terrain and a bunch of other fun stuff.
Yeah, so the specific, if I can remember all of the weird specific shit, because again, like, how would you know this? And I think we touched on the grassy terrain one in the week 1 recap that I did with IDM. In Psychic terrain, Psychic type moves are boosted in power, and you cannot use priority. In electric terrain, electric type moves are boosted in power, and you cannot fall asleep if you are grounded, if you are touching the ground. Generally, most terrain effects only affect things that are grounded anyway, but it's kind of weirdly inconsistent. Like, Expanding Force still gets, like, terrain benefit from you being grounded, but if your opponent is not grounded, meaning that it's Levitate or Flying type, you don't get the double damage, but you still get the slight damage buff from Psychic terrain, so it goes up to, like, 90 or something. It's very dumb. Grassy terrain arbitrarily chooses 2 ground-type moves, Magnitude and Earthquake, and halves their power during the duration of the terrain, but not all ground-type moves.
It also does it to dig, doesn't it?
I don't believe it does it to dig. I think it's only just Magnitude and Earthquake. Because I know that, like, Stomping Tantrum and High Horsepower and other similar, like, kind of semi-meta ground-type moves, they still work at full power. It's just Earthquake and Magnitude. So,
if grassy terrain is in effect, unless the target is in a semi-invulnerable turn of a move such as Dig or Dive, Bulldoze, Earthquake, and Magnitude is halved.
Oh, Bulldoze.
Okay, so that's... Yeah.
I didn't know that Bulldoze... See, it's like, why? Why Bulldoze and not Dig? Why? I don't know.
I don't know.
It just doesn't make any kind of sense. And Misty Terrain is kind of the worst one of all, because at least the consistent theming is that Grassy Terrain boofs. Grassy Terrain buffs Grass-type moves. Psychic terrain buffs Psychic-type moves. Electric terrain buffs Electric-type moves. So you'd think that Misty terrain would boost Fairy-type moves, but it doesn't. It only halves the power of Dragon-type moves, and Fairies, who are generally going to be setting up the Misty terrain, already are immune to Dragon-type moves. So,
Man.
yeah, weird. Terrain is weird, and it unfortunately cost Mass, well, I guess it didn't cost him that much in the grand scheme of things in this match, but man, I mean, that bullet punch would have been nice, you know?
Yeah, it probably would have killed that Alakazam.
Yeah, definitely would have killed.
Yeah, definitely would have.
So, yeah, that's Mass versus Chemith. Again, I'd love to see Chemith like with a strong display, because right now he's sitting pretty at a 2-0, but I feel like his last 2 games have been just a bit sloppy. I'm hoping that he can put something together that really just looks like a clean weather sweep, like what he's trying to go for.
This was definitely a 2-0 that could have been an 0-1 against him, instead of in his favor. So
absolutely, just like a very losable game. So as much as I love him, I mean, it was rough. I'm hoping to see some fine tuning. Next week, Chemith has to fight IDM, which I do not envy him for that.
Ooh, yeah, no.
So he's gonna have to really bring his A game if he wants to win versus IDM. So that's kind of a match to watch as we go into the next week. But let's scooch on over to the next replay. Would you like to introduce this one?
This one is going to be... Sorry, I can't read any of the names on screen. Give me a second. GTP Woody and IDM. There we go.
Yep. GTP Woody and IDM4. GTP Woody... yeah. GTP Woody. He had a solid season last season. Everybody in Season 3... like, the worst anybody did was go 2-5, and that includes GTP Woody, who got 2 wins. I believe he beat Skittles and Round Boy, who is not playing with us this season. But, yeah.
God, the U-turn into Dragapult was probably the worst move he could do there.
Yeah, the Ice Beam was questionable. I mean, it's hard to... I don't know.
But, I mean, you see Silvally Water, you kind of have to assume it's going to have some sort of ice coverage.
Yeah, well, the thing about Silvally is that its coverage doesn't change based on what type it is. The only coverage that it gets is multi-attack, which, of course, changes type depending on what memory you have on the Silvally. And that's why Silvally is kind of a big bargain pick, is like, you know, Silvally Water, Silvally Steel, Silvally Fairy are all pretty good Pokemon in their own right, but being able to just bring, like, a random niche coverage move is really good. Plus, having access to, like, Parting Shot, and just having like enough bulk on like its mono water typing or whatever to be able to live hits.
Yeah,
I don't know. Silvally's a great Pokemon, but yeah, just the U-turn. I wish he would have gone into something else, but I mean, looking at his team,
maybe. Azumarill, maybe.
Well, maybe. I guess. I mean, my worry is like that Silvally kind of backs this whole team into a corner, because if it's got Ice Beam for Dragapult, which it did. And we know that it can Parting Shot into like Whimsicott for like priority like Stun Spore, or into Grimmsnarl for priority screens, or into Jellicent for not priority but being able to Will-O-Wisp things, and we see that dynamic come in later. I don't know, it's hard for GTP Woody to beat Silvally Water here. And he pays for it. And that Dragapult set, man, he's running physical twice in a row. I know that it has stronger physical attack than special attack, but its physical move pool is pretty awful. Whereas its special move, I mean, it gets Draco Meteor, it gets Shadow Ball, which are both fairly good moves. So I don't know. Dragon Dart's Phantom Force is kind of hype, but I think that he might have benefited more from being able to hit moves. Sorry, my cat wants to get out, so I'm going to have to pause. Why don't you take it for a second?
Yeah, so I mean, it's just he kind of overinvests with the Copperage. I know it has Heat Crash. It uses a couple of questionable places here, but this Azumarill is actually, it's Banded Azu instead of Belly Drum, so it does a shit ton of damage, like the Banded knockoff. But like Jellicent with the Recover is just, it's kind of a losing battle.
Yeah.
If he wasn't burned, I think he probably kills it, but
yeah. Jellicent's a great Pokemon, and unfortunately GTP Woody is just feeding IDM burns on everything.
Yeah.
And we see this a bit later, not to get too spoilery, but IDM's endgame in Week 2 here is the exact same endgame as he was trying to play for in Week 1, which is the Dragonite multiscale behind screens. He wants to get a burn and have a screen up so that he can take a super effective hit behind multiscale, pop a Dragon Dance weakness policy, and then just sweep everything. Which he does end up getting with Azumarill. He burns it. He,
Okay.
He gets behind the screen, he gets the multi-scale, and then it's just crazy.
The Hurricane does 51, confuses it. It gets up Reflect. Another Hurricane lives at 1 HP.
And then
So it
immediately
can get up the other screen. I mean, if it does not get up that next screen, then I think IDM has a much tougher time at winning. I think he still wins, but I think he has a much, much tougher time.
Yeah, without the Reflect, I mean, and this is like a Bandit Azumarill, like even at, even burned, you know, or even at just -1, like, it's still gonna do damage. I mean, look at this, it's Bandit, it's multi-scale, so it's basically halved, halved, and halved, and it still does, like, 15%.
Yeah.
Which, you know, I don't know, it could have done, like, a fat, like, 60, you know? But at this point, there's not much you can do. But
No.
Woody knows. Woody knows that there's one thing you can do after giving him a fucking free kill. He gets in and Whirlwind's out. And actually, at this point, IDM does slightly struggle to take care of Woody's team. That full para helps a lot because taking like another Earthquake on this thing makes it harder for it to recover on the next Pokemon that comes in.
I think if that Grimmsnarl goes down 1 Hurricane sooner, then I think GTP Woody stands a lot better chance. Also, he doesn't switch into Noivern on that like buffed up Dragonite.
Yeah, having a Noivern into this part of the game would have actually benefited Woody so much.
Yeah.
Because you see this poor thing, I mean, Accelerate, goddamn, it does some damage, you know? I don't know. I feel like Woody, I mean, it's like a 3-0, but he was able to, you know, move the Dragonite out. Silvali's at 39, Cobalion's at 55. I mean, like, that's very doable.
It was a 5-2, and he came back and, you know, lost 3-0, but still, I mean, he got rid of 2 more Pokemon.
Yeah.
Almost 3, so.
The Lycanroc was honestly really good. It was benefiting a lot. But I don't know, I felt like Woody had a solid show. Against IDM fucking 4, if you get 3-0'd, you're kind of just like, whew! At least I didn't get 6-0'd. like differential lives another day. I can make it up in a different battle.
I think if he has just like one lucky roll, this could have gone a lot differently. Like this could have been like a 1-0 for IDM.
Yeah, it could have been. I mean, really, it was very doable for Woody at the end there. But I don't know. I'm looking forward to Woody just getting like a baby win, like just finding a win in one of his matches later on, and just being like, yeah, you know what? I'm GTP Woody, and I don't go 0-6 anymore. Like I don't go 0-7 anymore. I'm here to like take at least 1 dub home every season. I hope he gets another one. I really think he's playing like pretty solid, all things considered, and I think that he can do it.
And I think if Whimsicott like would have died sooner and not get the para onto the Lycanroc, I think Lycanroc stands a pretty good chance against the rest of that team to sweep.
Yeah, I mean at that point,
close to it.
So if he's max speed Lycanroc, he's at 355. That outspeeds Cobalion, that outspeeds Dragonite, that outspeeds Silvally, and it kills all 3 of them at this range between Earthquake and Stone Edge. So really, like, without getting parried and under speeding the Silvally, like, it seriously could have done a lot of work. I think that, see, like, it's almost like Woody tightens up as the game goes. Like, his early game is really not great. He just kind of sacrifices a lot of Pokemon to questionable, like, reads or whatever. And then at the end, he's like, oh, okay, I gotta start playing now. And then he, like, brings out the Lycanroc and actually, like, starts killing things. But it's just like too little too late. And if he had a little bit more leeway, right? Like if he wasn't parried, he probably would have won. If he had the Noivern to throw, I mean, he still might have been in a similar situation.
If he hadn't sacrificed Dragapult,
yeah, there's like a lot more that Woody could have done. Especially, I mean, Dragapult's such a good fucking Pokemon. Dragapult's a Pokemon that can just carry players that like are good. It takes some playing. Like it's not brain dead, but it's really strong if you utilize it. So. I think Woody's got a good chance going into next week. And I mean, you know, I feel like maybe we've been brushing over IDM a bit, but...
I mean, people know IDM. IDM is really good.
IDM is the current favorite.
Fundamentals are solid. He knows what he's doing. He has, like, good reads. He knows what his opponent's doing. His team building is solid. Like, there's only so much you can say about IDM because right now he's the top dog.
You kind of have to throw everything you've got because, you know, it's a very collaborative kind of league. Like, when you're doing your team building... generally you'll ask people like, hey, you know, do you want to ladder this out with me, or do you want to like sort of run some mock battles and see how it goes? Do you want to sort of theory craft? Do you want to help me run calcs? Like, you know, it's a very like people help their friends in the league, right? IDM doesn't need anyone's help. I mean, he's performing insanely well, and he doesn't really lab with people. Like, he doesn't need to.
I just think we're not talking a lot about IDM because it's more useful to use him as like a measuring stick for who he's going up against rather than saying, oh, this is what he could have done better. Because like a lot of the times there isn't much he could do better because he's playing it right.
Yeah, he just played it right. It was a little touch and go into the end game here, but I think it's hard to even account for like the Lycanroc. But I mean, even at that point, it's just like, yeah, IDM, he still won 3-0. you know, and like a tough end game, he still knew like, okay, I have to minimize this threat, I have to remove the speed. You know, he just knew what to click and what to do. And I just like IDM. I love what you said about the measuring stick. I think that IDM kind of just exists as the monolith, the guy to beat. If you want to make the dream run, you have to take down IDM4, and it's not easy. But that's IDM versus Woody. Surprisingly, a bit touch and go battle given the seeding disparity. And here's another actually kind of interesting game. So Claire versus Phantom Knight. That is going to be the... Oh, I forgot to mention the teams in the last one. Whoops. This is Claire, the coach of the Maryland Manectrics, versus Phantom Knight, the coach of the Haunted Mansion, Gengars. Phantom Knight, again, we touched on this a little bit in the last recording, I believe, but Claire is kind of like an old school cool sort of player, like very SSL chic. She kind of comes from like just like the old school days, and you know, back when PKDA was around and we had like this Pokemon Smowdown tournaments, you know, she was out there like putting her name at number 1, right? She was above.
I helped develop the PKDA.
That's right. You know, you're old school too. You're also old school. Oh, yeah. Cool. So you're kind of from that era with Claire too, and Claire, I mean, was putting in the work back then. But when she came back for Double Dip, she was like, yeah, I don't know, like I'm kind of out of practice, like I don't know if I can bring it like the same way that I used to be able to do it. So far, Claire has been doing fucking really good.
What was Claire's old name in like SSL?
Pegagod.
Okay, yeah, there we go.
Pegagod sat at the top, number 1 on the.
I remember that.
Yeah, number 1 on the what do you call it? On the power rankings for like a hot minute, you know, over like Ashley, over Aurora, over IDM even.
Over Chemith.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's threats. So Claire, I mean, is no slouch. And coming back, we weren't really sure how to like seed Claire or where to put her. We didn't know, because she was like, yeah, I haven't like played since like Gen 6, Gen 7. Like, I don't know the new meta. I don't really know what all the new moves and stuff do. She is... Seriously, she's holding it down. There's a couple of misplays where you look at it and you're like, okay, yeah, that's somebody that like hasn't played in a long enough to forget what motor drive does, right? But I mean, we'll go ahead and watch, and we can kind of just talk it out as we play.
The balloon chandelure is interesting.
Yeah, we were talking about this before recording. We're not sure. So Claire alleges that the air balloon chandelure is supposed to beat Tornadus, which sure. But like, it more so reads like an anti-sweeping Scolipede counter or a Registeel check.
Yeah, it doesn't really feel like the Tornadus counter.
Yeah, I'm sure it does fine versus Tornadus. But I don't know. Burning the Electivire was really huge, by the way. I think that it was definitely the right play to go for that.
Yeah, because then you're crippling it basically by having its physical attack, and that really helps that.
Yeah, I mean, burning things in general is like really strong in this, like, if you want to pretty much cripple any physical attacker, if you burn it, that's kind of game for almost everything.
Oh God, yeah. I don't know what Phantom Knight could have done there. Maybe switch into Primarina instead to eat the Earthquake and not
Tornadus.
The Scolipede. Oh yeah, Tornadus. Yeah, definitely.
Tornadus, yeah.
I felt like that was the wrong play to go into Scolipede there.
Yeah, I think that Phantom Knight might not have been thinking about Sand Rush, because normally Scolipede would outspeed there. And maybe he was assuming, like, okay, maybe Claire's running, like, Sand Force, or, I mean, he can't be running Mold Breaker, because you can see when they're running Mold Breaker, like, it gives you a message, but...
Yeah. Now, this Primarina, we think it specs Primarina.
Yeah, I'm almost positive.
Pretty sure, yeah.
It does, like, an insane amount of damage, and it doesn't, like, you know, the way that it plays looks very choice. Like, it doesn't sort of switch. I love that Phantom Knight just leaves it in. He, like, seriously just leaves it in on Galvantula. He leaves it in on fucking Rotom. Yeah.
Compound Eyes Thunder.
At that point, I would have actually gone for the switch into Electivire, but, I mean, again, hindsight's like 20/20, because what are you going to do? Phantom Knight got a lot out of that Primarina, though. It did go, like, kind of ham. Crit Dazzling Gleam would have killed had it not been for, of course, Sandstorm buffing the special defense of Tyranitar, allowing it to live that hit. Kind of redundant as Electivire comes in and just slams it anyway. But what are you going to do? But once you get into this point of the end game, it's like, yeah, Excadrill just outspeeds both of these Pokemon in Sand. If it has Rock Slide, it just... I don't know if it one-shots Tornadus with Rock Slide, but yeah, it probably does.
I mean, Iron Head, I mean...
why risk it even when you're in like the end game position here? And I mean, true to his word, Chandelure does come out. But how is that a counter to Tornadus? It gets two-shot by Hurricane. What are you talking about?
I really don't know.
I don't know. Look, Claire, I think you're a great player. I think your draft is insanely good. That's not a counter to Tornadus. You've got counters to Tornadus. This is not one of them.
I also just... Claire can get a bit greedy.
Yes. Claire, you may have noticed the Swords Dance on the Registeel put it in a bit of dire straits, and I mean, I understand the rationale, but at the same time, like, week 1, when Claire was fighting Firebolt, she did a similar move where I think she Swords Danced on like I don't know, some kind of type that could Earthquake and kill it, and then it did. And then she died. And then she came back and did it again week 2. So Claire, if nothing, hyper offensive motivated. I mean, I am clicking the Swords Dance button, and if you kill me, then whatever. But if you don't kill me, then I'm killing you. You gotta have some respect.
Pokemon is supposed to be played.
Yeah, from the heart. I mean, that's... I kinda love that. I do love the way that Claire plays. I'm kind of impressed with it. And I mean, she's doing great. I mean, 2-0 going into week 3 is again, nothing to sneeze at. So, I don't know, Remedy. What do you think?
I mean, it was a good match. I just think Phantom Knight got outbrained a couple times.
Yeah, it was unfortunate. The Scolipede, I think, could have done really well into the end game, but
yeah, if he didn't sacrifice it to the Excadrill. I understand the rationale that maybe it outspeeds it, but still, you have to assume this thing has Earthquake. It's super strong. We're in a sandstorm.
Yeah.
Let's not risk it.
I don't know. I mean, it's tough, right? Again, it's easy to say, like, because if he had switched in Scolipede and then hard switched into, like, if he had doubled into Tornadus to bait the Earthquake, then he would have run out the sand turns, and then he would have been able to outspeed and, like, Focus Blast or Superpower or whatever. So... I don't know. It's kind of touch and go, like a lot of sort of theoretical victory paths for Phantom Knight. And I mean, again, to Phantom Knight's credit, like he has made it look close. I mean, his last 2 games have been 2-0-2-0, or rather 0-2-0-2 on his end.
I feel like 2-0 is in that range where you can say, well, I could have feasibly won this. Like, if I would have done, if I could have done something, like 1 or 2 things right or better, then this is a win for me. So I feel like that's good for him. It's indicative that he's close. He just
needs to
more things to go his way.
And I mean, this is Phantom Knight TV. I don't know Phantom Knight's like general skill level in Pokemon. I'm not familiar with how many hours he's like grinded out Showdown, but he is playing competently. I mean, he's done well enough to bring IDM and Claire both down to 2 Pokemon. And he's basically just like a literally who. Like where did you come from? Like what are you doing here? So I love that. I think Phantom Knight is gonna really shine as he hits like the later weeks, and he might be able to clutch it and still get into playoffs. I mean, even at 0-2, you can still land playoffs.
I mean, considering his differential is only -4. I mean, yeah, totally.
Yeah, I think he's honestly got it. I mean, he 6-0's one person. His differential's positive. He 5-0's one person that's positive. He 4-0's somebody. It's at 0. So he's really. I mean, I have faith in the Phantom Knight run. I think that as soon as he sort of just like shapes up and he starts like and Claire and IDM are certainly no slouch to have as your like week 1, week 2. So as he goes into more winnable matchups, he might find like a lot more success. And I think that he's gonna blossom. I think he's gonna do well.
I mean, definitely, as long as he keeps grinding and like looks back and see what he's doing wrong or what he can do better, I think there's definitely promise there.
Yeah, I think Division 1 is super interesting because I feel like, IDM feels like pretty guaranteed, and probably Scoots as well, for like the playoffs. But then those next 2 spots, I feel like are actually in pretty hard contention. Like I'm not really sure who I would put as seeds 3 and 4. So I don't know. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. I'm excited to see what both these players bring to the table next week. Would you like to introduce the final match?
Yeah, the final one is going to be Scoots, what's Scoots' team name?
Dumblespood's Army.
Dumblespood's army, and then Firebolt, who is the Minnesota Magikarps.
That is correct. Dumblespood's
Yeah.
army versus Minnesota Magikarps. This is the real storyline, in my opinion. This is kind of the big return, because if you are a long-time Double Dip connoisseur, then you may remember that in Season 3 playoffs, Week 1, which was not the streamed portion, but basically the first round elimination portion, Firebolt and Scoots had to play, and that was the only time they'd played all season. They were from opposite divisions. Firebolt reverse swept. I think it was like a 5-0 reverse sweep with his Colossal against Scoots' entire team, and knocked him out and landed in top 4. Scoots ended up, since he was out at that point, he would have tied for 7th, whereas Firebolt went on to get 4th. So, and that's a big upset by seed, and it's probably, I would say, Firebolt's best win ever.
His crowning achievement.
His crowning achievement. That's definitely the match that you look at and you're like, oh yeah, that's my match. Like that, I did that. And so coming into season 4, Firebolt and Scoots, I mean, it's not a rivalry per se, but they both have something to prove here. Scoots is like, okay, I need to win this to prove that, like, okay, Firebolt might have reverse swept me in playoffs because of some weird Gigantamax cheese bullshit, but this is a new season. And I can beat Firebolt on even ground. And Firebolt's got to maintain, like, okay, look, I lost my week 1 on a missed head smash. I can win my week 2 if I don't choke. Remedy, what happened?
I mean, it's kind of a mix of things. I think Drapion was probably a mistake to bring in. Also, the fact that Rhyperior is thick as shit and just
doesn't care. Yeah, takes a 4 times weak move with 75%. I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a tough sell. Poor Vulcan.
Poor Can getting like shredded by these rocks.
Yeah, Firebolt and I, we did actually do some labbing for this match, and we had plans for a couple of specific things. And this Goodra was one of them. We were kind of expecting a slower, bulkier Goodra set to switch into Volcanion. This thing was running speed investment. We ran just enough speed on the Sylveon to outrun uninvested Goodra, but he was not uninvested. He was, in fact, I think max speed, like 252 or something.
Does he not have anything to get rid of the hazards on his team right now? Probably, maybe Corviknight, I guess.
Corviknight can defog. Volcanion gets defog.
That probably would have been a valuable investment.
Volcanion takes so much damage on rocks. I mean, it does. I mean, at that -1 special attack for the Moonblast, it mattered. He could have 1v1 this thing without the rocks up, even at -1. It's just really unfortunate. With a little bit better hazard control, if he was more prepared for these rocks, then his Volcanion would have been an insane threat. But
oh god, Head Smash is just ugh.
Head Smash crit basically like explodes your computer. I mean, you can't do anything about that.
Well, you remember there was that Pokemon gym leader in Gen 4 that had the Cranidos that had Head Smash, and that thing was a menace even in the games.
Rourke, I think, that was crazy. I don't know. Head Smash is an insane move. With Rock Head, it becomes like, again, not the most spammable move because it's only 80% accurate, I believe, or 85.
But when it hits,
oh my god, it's 150 base power, and if you're Rock Head, there's just no drawback.
Oh god, the Grass Knot hurt.
Yeah,
so bad.
Grass Knot does a lot. Rindo Berry is not an uncommon run on water ground types. It can essentially keep it from taking too much damage from a single grass type move.
And then Spectrier, I don't know how to say this name, is a menace. Just the...
Yep.
Ugh.
So yeah, Scoots knows his game plans. I mean, he had... I don't know, he got some advantages with that special attack drop on the Moonblast, and the rocks did a lot of work versus Volcanion. But as soon as he found that opportunity to get Spectrier in, I mean, it's so hard to not lose to it. That's what the Drapion was for, because it can come in. Spectrier's only real boon is that, in terms of coverage, it has Dark Pulse and Shadow Ball, and that's pretty much it. So it's very, very easy to resist it. And so Drapion is a Pokemon that resists both Dark and Ghost, and could get decent special defense. So, had he not lost it earlier to, I don't even remember what Drapion died to.
It died to rocks.
That's true, but it took some damage from something earlier. Drapion, Drapion took 90 from a Thunderbolt. So if he hadn't left it in on the Heliolisk, I don't know. It's a hard ask. Like, that's a kind of a game you have to play. But if you don't recognize that you have a win condition you need to avoid, then it becomes just, I don't know. It's about resource management and luck management, and to know that Spectrier is in the back, and to know that the only thing standing between you and a Scoots win is preventing Spectrier from sweeping your last 3 Pokemon, you better keep that damn Drapion alive. Because if you don't, then you lose. And that's kind of what happened. Scoots was ultimately playing to land an endgame where Spectrier could come in and just kill everything. And it did.
Can you imagine if Firebolt would have actually gotten rid of the hazards at some point?
Yeah.
And let Full Canyon actually do work?
Yeah. It would have been tough, but it would have been worth it. I mean, he even could have brought in Corviknight on Goodra or something, and maybe tanked a Flamethrower or a Thunderbolt or something. Oh, it's hard to say.
Yeah.
Well, like we say, it's hindsight's 2020, but I don't know. I loved the Kabia Berry on Sylveon too. That was another thing we tried to do. It was we kind of recognized that you were likely going to switch in Sylveon on a poison type coverage move from Goodra. So if you run Kabia Berry and then you outspeed it, then it doesn't matter. You can just kill it. Scoots was not running the sets that countered, and that was another big just boon to Firebolt. It's a mixture of kind of getting outgamed at team building, and then additionally kind of just, I don't know, it was a little RNG, a little outplay, a little team building. It was just, Firebolt lost this game 4 different ways, basically. It was really tough.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty much as categorical as you can get.
Yeah. God, and the Drapion. And it sucks, because, I can sit here until I'm blue in the face and say, oh, you should have swapped in Swampert on the Heliolisk Thunderbolt, but he could have just Grass Knotted.
Yeah.
It's a thing to consider, so. And if he had Grass Knotted, then leaving Drapion in would have been the right play. But what are you going to do? I mean, it's tough. Firebolt did the best with what he had, and he kept it very competitive. I mean, again, Scoots is a great damn player, and brought him down to just a 3-0 victory path. But as soon as the Drapion was not in a position to deal with Spectrier, it just became impossible. And just, man, the goddamn rocks. Firebolt, please, get rid of the rocks. Please defog next game. If someone puts up rocks, you remove them.
Yeah, I mean, if he keeps running, I don't know if he ran Full Canyon in week 1 or not. I'm not entirely sure.
I don't think he did.
Well, I say if he did, then I think it might be worth it to invest defog onto Full Canyon pretty regularly.
Or maybe even just putting heavy duty boots on it would have just benefited it a lot. Because 25 bucks.
What item was it running?
It was leftovers.
Leftovers, yeah. I think. Yeah, I can see heavy duty boots putting in more work.
Yeah, I mean, it would have in this scenario, because, again, he took 50, he didn't heal 50 on lefties. Whereas I think that if he had just defogged the rocks, right, if he had found that opening with Corviknight and abused it, then he could have brought in Volcanion, and the leftovers would have done a hell of a lot of work, and he could have actually reliably countered Feeny. And it's not even like he played it necessarily wrong, but the -1 special attack kind of hurt, but then, what are you going to do? Look, Scoots held it together, Firebolt crumbled just on all angles, and it looked kind of doable, but unlike the other games that we talked about, again, I think Scoots had him checked a lot of ways.
Yeah, I don't think this one was as close as a 3-0.
Yeah.
Says.
Yeah, the number can be misleading a bit, and I think that just Firebolt, I mean, as soon as the Drapion was incapacitated, Spectrier just won the game.
Yeah.
So it's something to look out for, man. Whoever's fighting Scoots next, you better have a counter to the Spectrier, because if you lose it, you lose. That was what happened to Mass week 1. He had his Como with Bulletproof, and it was able to just sit on this thing. And then as soon as Como was dead, Spectrier could just come in and just clean up, and it did.
Oof.
So, yeah, I mean, that's Division 1, week 2. Just 2-0, 2-0, 2-0, 2-0, 0-2, 0-2, 0-2, 0-2. That's the scoreboard. It's kind of scary right now.
Perfectly balanced, as all things should be.
Perfectly balanced, as all things should be. Well, week 3, we're going to see at least one person adding a lopsided amount to the record, because I know some 0-2s are playing and some 2-0s are playing. So some people are going to come out with their first win, some people are going to come out with their first loss. It's going to be an exciting division to watch next week.
Definitely. I mean, most of the matches next week are hopefully going to be good.
Yeah, here's hoping. I mean, that's all we can hope for, is a good match every week. But I suppose that is the depth of our analysis. Thank you so much for joining me, Remedy, today.
No problem. It was a good time.
It was a good time. I enjoyed it. I think we had some good analysis. Make sure to stay tuned for Division 2, Week 2 analysis We
You
haven't
get to
found.
watch me lose next. Have fun.
Hey, well, you get to watch me win. So if you're into that kind of thing, then definitely stay tuned for Week 2 Division 2 analysis. In the meantime, I've been Spood, coach of the Southtown Sandslashers. Joining me was Remedy, coach of the Kansas City Krabbies, and we will be seeing you next time.
Adios.